Welcome to the very first edition of Breaking the Barriers podcast, an exclusive podcast brought to you by Center for Minority Rights and Strategic Litigation, an organization based in Mombasa, Kenya that is dedicated to promoting the rights of gender and sexual minorities persons and ensuring that gender and sexual minorities are able to receive legal services and access to every other human rights that they are entitled to. Well, today being the very first edition, we are going to focus on access to legal services for the LGBT community. The LGBT community, as you know it, is a community that is often stigmatized within the Kenyan context and also within our daily societal interactions. So, joining us today are two very, very important people, and I call them important because I feel that their contributions towards the movement and everything that they do adds great value. We are joined by one very, very, very passionate lawyer and legal expert. And when I mean passionate, I mean that this young lady has actually gone over and beyond to support the LGBT community by providing information, by providing legal aid services to gender and sexual minorities. And the other person joining us for this discussion is a young, passionate activist. And when I say activist, I mean someone that has committed themselves their entire life towards ensuring that human rights are enjoyed by every human being. And I would like to pass it over to them so that they may introduce themselves.
Thank you very much, Henry. You're very kind. My name is Chelsea Owino. As Henry has said, I am a legal expert. I am very passionate about human rights with a very specific focus on the LGBTQ community. And it goes without saying that the LGBTQ community holds a very special place in my heart as a legal expert. And it brings me so much joy to see more people coming out to write about the LGBTQ community and the plight that is being faced by this community. And as a legal expert, I provide my legal services to CMRSL, which is Center for Minority Rights and Strategic Litigation. I also facilitate trainings to be able to create awareness on what is happening in the community and how best the community can protect itself from the various human rights violations. I would like to pass it on to the next person to introduce themselves.
Thank you so much, Henry and Chelsea. I am honored to be here. My name is Calvin Jerry. I am a gender non-conforming person and a queer human rights activist. I can't wait to see where this goes because it is time for a revolution. LGBTQ people and persons are Kenyan citizens too, and they should be able to enjoy the rights as stipulated in the Constitution. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys. Again, like this being the very first episode, of course there's a lot of anxiety. Personally, like it's just there, but I'm hoping it would not show on camera. But here's the thing, when we talk about rights and we talk about LGBT rights, because I'd like for us to begin the conversation from there. There's a lot of, I call it conspiracy going on around there, that LGBT persons are seeking for special rights, special privileges. What are LGBT rights? Let's start by first understanding that.
Right, and I would start off by saying something that I always say. Before someone is an LGBTQ community member, they are human beings, right?
Yeah.
Which means that by virtue of them being human beings, there are human rights that are inherent, meaning that they are born with them. And as someone who is very conversant with what's happening in the community, we are not saying that the community members deserve special treatment, because the minute you say that, you are separating them from the fact that they're human beings. All we're saying is that the LGBTQ community members be treated as human beings, right? And human beings, we do not get special treatment. And when I say human beings, I am talking about the community members. Because to me, the community members are human beings who who deserve and who are entitled to enjoy human rights. So when we talk about rights, I will make reference to the Constitution of Kenya. And maybe for those that are not quite familiar with it, the Constitution of Kenya was promulgated in 2010. And when I say promulgated, I mean that was the year that it took effect and became a law. And the Constitution of Kenya is the supreme law of the land. And this means that it is the mother law. All laws derive their genuinity, all laws derive what they are from the Constitution. And these rights that the community members, being human beings, are entitled to are enshrined and contained in the Constitution. And these rights are quite a number, and I believe we'll unpack them as the conversation gets going.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. And again, like this is very, very interesting. Like clearly, guys, you could take note that we're actually dealing with a legal expert. Did you hear the word promulgated and how it was used? Like, okay. Do you know what the word promulgated means?
I mean, I thought it was written. To be honest, that's what I thought. But thank you so much for enlightening us.
Yeah. So, just
thank you. I wanted to maybe add a little bit on what Chelsea said. Of course, I'm not a law expert. I did want to say, however, LGBTQ persons are not fighting for LGBTQ rights. We are requesting that the rights that are written and they serve every Kenyan, that we get to be accorded the same respect as everyone else. We get to enjoy the same. We are not asking for them to draft a new constitution or bring in, laws from out of space or something, but we're just requesting to be able to enjoy what they have also written and what everyone else in this country is enjoying.
Yeah, and actually that leads me to the question that I wanted to ask you. When we speak of rights, and we speak of every human being having the right to enjoy all of these rights that are enshrined in the Constitution of Kenya and also in the Declaration of Rights, right? You also get it that the same Constitution has certain laws that makes it difficult for gender and sexual minorities to be able to enjoy or rather access some of their rights, leaving out the bit of even enjoying them. We have to start by accessing the rights first. And as an activist, I'm aware that you have been in the forefront of a lot of campaigns on social media and also, interactions and meetings in spaces. What are some of these laws and what are some of these issues that, affect the LGBT, gender and sexual minorities and hinder them from accessing their rights?
Yeah, thank you so much. Sorry for that. So, I wanted to say, in this country, from what I know and from what I've read and learned, is that there's no law criminalizing homosexuals or gender and sexual minority persons. There are laws that have been misinterpreted or have been used to, limit our rights and our freedoms. However, if you actually read them, which is mostly Penal Code Section 162, 163 and 165, but if you are to actually look at them, they are not supposed to be limiting our rights as homosexuals or gender and sexual minorities in this country. We're supposed to be able to enjoy all the rights in the Constitution. If you break Section 162 and 163 and 165, and they are able to prove that you've actually gone against that, then they can charge you. However, if you actually read them, and I'm not a law expert again, Chelsea is here and she will maybe confirm or deny this.
Yeah.
But if you actually read them, they do not anywhere say that homosexuality in this country is a crime and you're going to go to jail for 7 to 14 years. No, that is not what is written there. In fact, I actually interpret that to mean anyone in this country who engages maybe in carnal knowledge, or a man who engages in gross misconduct, any one of us in this country can go to jail because of such a law. But then everyone has taken these laws or these specific rules and they've put us in the box that these were specifically meant for LGBTQ people and the gender and sexual refugees.
Wow. And I love how you've brought it out and said that LGBT rights are not special and that there's nothing unique about it. It's just a matter of them being human first. And Chelsea, when you started off, you said that first of all, before someone identifying with a certain sexual orientation or gender identity, they are first a human being, and that on its own makes them eligible to access the human rights. And a lot of work is being done by Center for Minority Rights and Strategic Litigations, which you work with, in accelerating access to justice for LGBT persons. And of course, when we speak about access to justice, we cannot do that without highlighting some of the common violations. As Kelvin has mentioned, there's a lot of misuse of the penal code in terms of criminalizing gender and sexual minority persons. Not because they are caught in the act, but because someone is suspected of being a gender and sexual minority. So, would you like to speak briefly about that?
Yes, I would. And you're actually correct.
Thank you.
In that the particular provisions of the penal code that Kelvin has mentioned, if you go and read, you will find that there is nowhere in that particular provision where they have said LGBTQ. They have not. The specific words are any man or, right, as it provides. And this goes to say that this is not directly supposed to be limited to the community. This is for everyone else, right? Because the law is for everyone else. The law is not targeted, to maybe suit a particular people. And I will also say that when it comes to interpretation of these rules, of course, everyone would want to butter their bread how they would like it to be. And when I say this, I mean that the law should be interpreted as it is and not as one ought to think this is how it should be interpreted. And I will make reference to Article 27 of the Constitution of Kenya, which talks about equality and discrimination. And this particular provision of the law has brought a lot of controversy, a lot of discussion, and if you're keen, you will notice that the word sexual orientation is not there. But then in a Supreme Court judgment, I believe it was last year, I can't remember the exact month, but I do know it was last year in the NGO case, the very popular case that talks about freedom of association, etc. And in that particular case, if you actually go and read the judgment as it is, you will notice that the judges shed some light when it comes to the issue of sex, sexual orientation. And they mentioned that the sex that has been mentioned in that particular provision of the law actually does talk about sexual orientation. In as much as that particular provision does not explicitly say sexual orientation, it does actually talk about it. And just as I wind down on my comment on the same, I would also say that people out there think that when we are advocating for the rights of the community, we are saying that we want a specific act for the community, no, because that would only open a can of worms. And this will mean that we would only be digging a deeper hole that we will not be able to get out of. All we're saying is that we want the community members to be treated as everyone else. We're not asking for special treatment. We are not asking for specific laws that address the needs of the community. No, we're asking for inclusivity. And inclusivity and intentionality is all about accommodating the community. It's all about bringing on board the needs of the community. It's all about addressing the plight and the violations that are being faced by the community members. And that can only be done if people are open to the idea of treating and accepting that the community members have not chosen to be. Because there's a lot of talk that the community members choose. I choose to be lesbian. I choose to be gay. You cannot choose. It is something that you're born with, right? And this must be taken into consideration, and we must ensure that this fight does not end here. We continue to fight and ensure that everyone is brought on board, and that is inclusive of the community members.
When you speak of inclusion, Chelsea, and the Constitution. The Constitution, as you've mentioned, is supposed to be a document that serves every citizen of Kenya, right? And I'm aware that there's anti-discriminatory laws, but based on your own observation, and this might not be, informed by any form of experience, but just what you have seen. Are these anti-discriminatory laws serving their purpose, or are gender and sexual minorities bypassed by these laws? Because I am aware that no one should be, let's say, everyone should access health services, the high sustainable standard of health services, right? But then you see that, for instance, going to certain facilities to access health services becomes challenging. Going to report a violation as a gender and sexual minority might not be an easy thing for someone to do if they identify that way or if they express themselves in a particular way. So as far as the anti-discriminatory laws, what would you say about them? Does the government maybe need to put more emphasis on them? Do we still need to create more awareness? Because probably could be an issue that people are not aware that we have laws that are actually against discrimination in this country.
Right, and that is a very good question, Henry. And the issue of discrimination, specifically against or targeted towards the community members, is a very hot topic. And when I say hot, I mean that the minute you begin having this conversation, you don't stop, right? Even us, if we decide to sit here and unpack those laws, we will be here for a very, very long time. And what I will say is that the laws are there, right? The laws that are in place are not bad laws. These are laws that need amendment. And the anti-discriminatory laws that are there, I would say it's a 50-50 situation, because whilst others agree with it and say that, they need to be there, others on the other hand are saying that, why do we have these laws? What are they doing here? Why are we having so many laws, yet at the back of everything, we already have laws in place? So I believe what needs to be done is, for example, if you look at the Constitution, it's been there since 2010, right? And this means that for someone to actually try and amend the Constitution, that's really going to take a lot of work, right? It's going to take a lot of work, a lot of resources are going to go into it. And you will find that people might not be so open to that idea, specifically because we want to bring inclusion when it comes to the community. So I will say it's a 50-50 situation. It's a complex matter because some agree, some do not agree. But all I'll say is that there's a need for awareness. I believe that is at the root of everything. You can only make an informed decision from an informed point of view. And this means that when you are going to make a decision about something, maybe how to treat a community member, you will only know how to treat a community member once you know how a community member ought to be treated. And the best way for that to happen is through awareness. So I believe there's a need to create awareness about them and to really bring them out in the right light. Because as Calvin was saying, that interpretation seems to be a problem to some people. Because while other people think that it's a good thing, others think it's a bad thing. So we all need to be on the same page, we all need to be rocking on the same boat and understand that, the community members are not criminals, because some people think that they are criminals, and that is why you will find that people are very much against the community members, which is very wrong. Because yet again, before a community member is referred to as such, they're human beings, they have rights, and they ought to be treated with dignity and respect.
Wow. I love I just love how you keep echoing that. Before anyone is anything else, they are a human being. And also, I love what you've referenced from what Kelvin had spoken of. And Kelvin, I'd like to proceed with you because I feel that you've been quiet and comfortable, and I'd like to make
I'm
you.
enjoying the conversation.
Yes. So, freedom of expression and freedom of association. Chelsea has said that some people misunderstand when we talk about human rights. When you talk about LGBT rights and think that it's some special set of rights, and even when you talk about discriminatory laws, you find that it's a 50-50 thing, right? Some people understand why it is important to have them, while some people just like, we do not need them. Like, if you're bad, you're weird, you're a freak, you are just that, you're a criminal, I'm aware of the ruling last year of the High Court, freedom of association, and also, one that has always existed as far as I know, is the freedom of expression that apparently a lot of people get violated out there. And I know based on your track record, like I earlier said, like you have been involved in a lot of work. My question to you is simple. Like, what is happening? Why is it that people do not really understand that there is a freedom in which every human being has, and it is called the freedom of expression and freedom of association? Like, make us, like, get us into that thought, Kevin.
Thank you so much, Henry, again, of course, for the praises. First of all, the fear that, the surge of fear that we saw that came with the Supreme Court ruling on freedom of expression and association, when it was legal act that against, I think, KFC, I can't remember, the non-governmental NGO board registration. And you see, with that pronunciation, and again, Chelsea will help, the fear came in because from the ruling, the judges clearly stipulated that LGBTQ persons can register organizations, which means they recognize that LGBTQ persons exist in this country. They also proceeded that people cannot be discriminated against because of their sexual orientation and gender identity. Now again, with your permission, this was the Supreme Court. And with my little knowledge, I know that it is the apex court in this country, meaning that ruling is now law. That means right now, if anyone discriminates against me because of my sexual orientation or gender identity, I have the right to go and sue them for that. And that was where the fear was coming in, because we are now fully shielded. Because if I cannot be discriminated against because of my sexual orientation and gender identity, and it is something that every time I will, maybe from now continuing, will appear in court and say, you discriminated me against this, and it is now precedence. It's now so that was where we saw the fear coming, and now you see the need for people to now show we can fight back. That's now where it came in, because religious leaders and politicians and the rest, they had them with that ruling. They lost their power over the gender and sexual minority communities. That power it is no longer in their hands. We have it back. And that's now again why we are seeing people trying to bring another referendum, because they want to change the whole constitution and remove the aspect of sexual orientation and gender identity and actually criminalize homosexuality. Because in this country right now, the freedoms we are enjoying and going to enjoy, there's so many and so good. But now that also comes with the risk of what are the people down here doing about this kind of judgments and ruling. Now again, the rulings, the laws are good, but our security, instead of improving, is actually going down. So yeah, sorry I spoke too much.
So I'm actually going to engage you some more in the language. We have a long road before we get there, and I remember recently I was in a certain space, and someone taught me something that I truly cherish until this day. And they identify as a gender and sexual minority, not going to go into detail, but they told me that for a gender and sexual minority, life is different. Life is different. Life is not all yellow brick roads and roses falling down as people think. And some people would like to think that for gender and sexual minorities, this is usually something that someone would decide, as both of you had mentioned earlier. And one thing I learned, and I've always echoed, is why would anyone wake up and choose a life of discrimination? Why would anyone wake up and choose to be treated as a minority? I mean, even for the name Center for Minority Rights and Strategic Litigation, of course, being a minority puts you at a position of less privilege than other people. So as we wind up, in hopes that we'll be able to have you again and to continue with this conversation, what would you have to say? What message would you have to give to gender and sexual minority persons? And I'd love to start with you, Chelsea, and then conclude with you, Kelvin.
Wow. I have a lot to say to the community, and at times I get emotional when I hear that people are being violated, their rights are being violated, and at times I wish that I was in a higher position of power to be able to do more than I am doing right now. And the word that I will say is, to all the community members, you are enough, you are perfect as you are beautiful, you are handsome, you are the most delightful creature that has ever existed. And just because people are battling different issues, just because people are hurt and going through trauma, it does not mean that you have to be a victim of their projections. And people having a problem with you and your sexual orientation and you living your life authentically, boldly, and confidently is not a you problem, it's a them problem. So you are perfect, you are enough, you are as you are. And just as I say, before you're anything, you're a human being. And that is the most beautiful thing. So I am sending all my love, all my hugs, and all my light. Because as a GSM, as a community member, you are enough and you're perfect in all the beautiful forms. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you.
That is so beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Henry, for having me here today. Now, to my people, of course, they're my people. I always say something that homosexuality is incomprehensible to so many people. Now, imagine you're smart enough to understand your sexual orientation, and millions of people out there, not only in Kenya, in the whole world, they don't understand. So that means you're smarter than so many people. So actually, what I'm trying to say is carry your heads high, because you guys are awesome, you're divine beings. Come out, let's be seen, let's be known. We're not asking for understanding. We're just asking for compassion. Treat human beings with compassion. Be empathetic. We're not even asking you to go any mile. We're just asking that people should just allow other people to be and to live their authentic lives and to enjoy the privileges of just being a human being. So yeah, keep going.
Wow. The two of you are just inspiring, and I love both of your parting shots. For me, I'd say I'm delighted to have you here on this, get to do this a very, very first episode of Breaking the Barriers. And I feel that, a barrier has already started to crumble on its own, and that we are working towards compassion, of course. To all our listeners, thank you very much. To all our viewers, thank you very much. Again, this is Breaking the Barriers podcast, brought to you by Center for Minority Rights and Strategic Litigations. From me to you is stay blessed, stay safe, and remember that you deserve access to justice. Justice is your right. Cheers.